All right, let's begin. All right. So, first of all, are you working or are you a student?
I am currently a student. I'm preparing to go to student in the United States. I'm currently a student preparing to go to graduate school in the United States. Yes.
Okay. And could you tell me about your major?
I actually majored in biology for undergrad, but I was actually on the pre-med track, so I'm currently preparing to be a medical student. Yes.
Good. And do you like your major?
Yes, I really do love my major. I would definitely say I'm more on the science side than on like the English and reading side. And I really have this passion for helping others, and that's why I really want to work in the health field.
Okay. And what do you do when you have some free time?
When I have a lot of free time, I would say the first thing that comes to my mind would be cooking and baking. I have a big passion for cooking and baking, not just for myself to eat, but to actually share with other people, and just seeing that smile when people enjoy the food like really brightens up my mood.
Great. Now we're going to talk about your accommodation. So do you live in a house or an apartment?
I would say I live in Korea and the States. So in Korea, I live in an apartment, but in the States, I live in a house. And so I actually know what it feels like to live in both an apartment and a house. So yeah.
And which do you prefer, living in a house or an apartment?
Definitely a house. Because like living in a house, I have my own room, I have a lot more space, and just having that extra space is just, better than living in a smaller apartment.
And would you like to change anything about your home?
I would say that since it's not necessarily like my home, but it's my parents' home or my siblings' home, I would say one thing I would love to change is the interior and like the design. Things aren't, I would say designed in my taste, but I would love to design it to be a little bit more cozy and something to more my style.
Okay. Now we're going to talk about meeting places. So where is your favorite place to meet your friends?
I think that's such a simple question for me. My favorite place to meet is in a cafe. It's just the atmosphere in a cafe is just so much more bright, I would say. And I love the smell of coffee, listening to great music, while just being in, I would say, an environment where everyone else is meeting their friends, having conversations, and it usually tends to be more of a positive attitude, a positive environment. So that's why I would say that's my favorite place to meet at.
Okay. And do you think there are some places that are more suitable for meeting friends than other places?
Definitely. Just as I say, I think cafes are a great place to meet people, great place to meet friends, but maybe somewhere like a library wouldn't be the greatest choice. Maybe if you're planning on studying with your friends, I would say that a library would be a great place to meet friends and study together, but not necessarily to meet and talk.
Okay. And are there any differences between your favorite place to meet now and when you were a child?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Like as a child, I would mostly meet my friends either in the backyard of our house or at a playground. But now as an adult, those aren't necessarily the places you would want to meet at when you're an adult. So I would say there is a big difference in places where you meet, because one is more like to go play and have fun with friends, and one is to like have a conversation and get to know your friend even better.
Okay, perfect. That'll do us for part one. We'll go on to part two now. All right. Get to your question. Okay, so there's your question. And there's a pen for you. All right. So I'll give you 1 minute to make some notes and prepare, okay? So that's 1 minute now. Yes, whenever you're ready. Okay, so I'll just ask you the question. All right. So could you describe an interesting neighbor?
Okay, I would say the most interesting neighbor I had was the neighbor I actually had while I was growing up. So I lived in one house for 10 years, and during that time, there's a neighbor, and it was basically a family, but I would describe most of the parent. So this parent was very extravagant. I would see this parent or this neighbor always coming in and out of their house in the best dressed like suit. But one day, actually, their house burned down, and it was like a huge thing, like all across the news in our neighborhood. And basically, fortunately, nobody was hurt. But since the house burned down, they had to rebuild their house, and they took this opportunity to build this grand mansion in this tiny suburban neighborhood. There was this huge mansion with a huge fountain in front of their yard. And I was like, wow, this is quite an interesting person, quite showy and kind of extravagant. And yeah, that's what I say. And then should I just answer all the other questions too?
Yeah.
So basically, I knew him through his children. And so his daughter and his son was around the same age as me. And we didn't do anything together much, but I would just always see him like through the front window of my house, just walking past. And then sometimes I would go over their house and play with them. And once they built their mansion, I actually got to go in and see and get a tour of their house. And it was quite like a palace, I would say. They had a movie theater on the 3rd floor, and they would love to be very hospitable to their visitors, and they would show basically everything about their like interior. They're kind of, you know, in a way, like they would like to show off like their riches, I would say.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So yeah, real examiner stops at 2 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. So yeah, we'll move on to the third part of the test now, okay? So yeah, the first question in part 3 is, do you think people are familiar with their neighbors these days?
I would say these days, not a lot of people would be familiar with their neighbors. I feel like a lot of people are more the type of people to keep to themselves than to actually be nice and, you know, go out of their way to introduce themselves to their neighbors.
Why do you think that is?
I feel like in today's society, a lot of people are more wary of strangers, even if it's their neighbors. People aren't willing to be like going out of their way to be nice to someone, to get to know somebody, especially since there's like a lot of crime and violences and stories about people getting hurt from either neighbors and stuff like that.
Yes, indeed. And do you think in the countryside it's the same or it's a little bit different?
Definitely say in the countryside it's a little bit more different. Like thinking about like people who live in farms and who tend to be a lot more farther away, people would be going out of their way to, you know, greet their neighbors and introduce themselves, because, you know, since they're so isolated, they want that human interaction. They want to get to know people, and then in that way they can help each other whenever something happens, and just always be there for each other.
Okay. And how can people improve their relationship with neighbors if they would like to?
I would definitely say that, first of all, you know, greeting. And then once you move into a new place, I would definitely go around the neighborhood and like pass around like cookies or give them some gifts and just introduce them and say, oh, like, I'm the new tenant or new homeowner. Like, whenever I need help, can you like please help? I'll always be there to help you and stuff like that. Yeah.
And how do you think people would react to that these days?
These days, I would definitely say people would be shocked at first. They'd be like, oh, okay. Kind of like, oh, like you're a stranger, I don't know you. But once they get to warm up to that person, definitely feel like it's a relationship that can definitely establish.
Yes. And how do children build relationships with other children in their neighborhood?
I feel like it's such a simple way for children to build relationships. All they need to say is, hey, do you want to play? Do you want to hang out? Let's go to the playground and play tag. Or like, let's go over to your house and like, let's eat something good. Hey, I actually bought this new toy. Do you want to come play with this toy with me? I feel like kids definitely have a better way to establish relationships with each other within their neighborhood just by simply playing and just being their self.
Yeah. And why do you think it's more difficult for adults to do the same thing?
For adults, I would definitely say it's a societal and social. There's an aspect to it. For adults, you have to be like I would say, you have that societal or social pressure that you have to act a certain way. And so adults tend to be a little bit more careful in a sense when they're meeting neighbors, and they want to, since they're the adults and they have to take care of their family, especially in a neighborhood, I would say it's a little bit more difficult for them to establish a relationship. Yeah.
Indeed. And what do you think are some common problems between neighbors?
Common problems between neighbors. Definitely would say if you're living in an apartment and you have if you have a floor above you and below you, you're going to hear a lot of sound. So there's a lot of, like, I wouldn't say noise pollution, but a lot of sound, like if the upstairs neighbors stomping or playing loud music, that would definitely be like a big factor where neighbors tend to fight and dislike each other. Or sometimes things are placed in front of your door, but it's like garbage or trash. And so people like tend to fight over things. I'm like, you suspect that, oh, I think that neighbor put that trash in front of my door. And you start fighting with them, and then you leave sticky notes, writing passive-aggressive messages to each other. So I would definitely say it's just tiny little things that really bother neighbors.
Okay. Perfect. That will do. That's the end of our test.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, let's talk about the test. Let's give our feedback. Obviously, really good test, scoring 9.0, fluency, pronunciation, grammar, vocab, great. There's a couple of tiny things, but I think it's more of a slip of the tongue than anything, you know. Maybe more cozy, more bright. Should be cozier, brighter.
Yes.
That's all. Maybe, I wasn't sure, did you say violences? But it should be violence. Yeah,
Okay.
Uncountable noun there. That was really it. It was really good. I would just want to point out some like good things that students should try to do, right? Because that was a really good test. In part 3, we talked about neighbors. We had good conversation. You used 3 nice expressions I would like to point out. First one was keep to themselves. Yeah, nice phrasal verb. Neighbors tend to keep to themselves these days. Means not really interact with other people. Yeah. Second one was go out of their way to be nice. Go out of their way. Another great expression, meaning to give extra help. Yeah. And the last one was warm up to their neighbors. Another nice expression. So yeah, these are 3 examples of phrasal verbs that I think students should really try to do, but that really makes your answer stronger and able to get a 9.0. So yeah, thank you for coming in.
All right. Thank you.
Perfect.